Hey, shop gals and guys out there. Thank you so much for joining me, your host, Amani K. Brown, the tattoo priestess and brand maven, for another episode of Shop Gal Diaries. Before we dig into this particular episode, I want to invite you to head over to Shop Gal Diaries on Substack and subscribe there, where we'll engage more. The community is there. We'll have lives. That's where the clubhouse is. That's just where the club is. So that you know, if you are new to Shop Gal Diaries, we explore um, creativity, craft, and cultural stewardship rooted in Black tattoo culture. So while it is in Black tattoo culture, we also explore entrepreneurship and what all of those things look like the nice little intersection of 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 um of Black tattoo culture and entrepreneurship, but in that being able to uncover and discover creativity, craft, and cultural stewardship. That helps beyond tattoos. So you don't have to get tattooed. You don't have to wish to get tattooed. You don't have to pray to get tattooed. You don't have to tell me about how much you don't like tattoos to be able to engage with our content, with the stories, and with the experiences that are shared there, the think pieces and the cultural philosophy. So don't count yourself out just because it says tattoo. Tattoo is not all bad. In fact, you might discover that through Shop Gal Diaries, that tattoo is a lot more cultural than what you've been programmed to believe. So I invite you to come along on these journeys with these stories, with these philosophies, with these creative think pieces. Until then, go subscribe and let's dig in to today's podcast. All right, I'll see you there. Circumstances tell them that it can't be done. If you think you can do it, you can't. Hey, hey, shop gals and guys out there. Okay, so it's another Weird to Wealth Wednesday. I hope you are starting to enjoy or enjoying the part two to Shop Gal Diaries, which is where we are building a living archive of tattoo ethno history with tattoo rants, raves, and rituals. It is not just a podcast, but is a collection of essays, culture critiques, and tattoo history guides for Black tattoo history. If you guys did not know, my lane is in tattoo. So before I can even coach you on what transformation looks like, I have started by doing transformations on bodies, starting with myself. So with that said, I do a lot with cultural stewardship with tattoo, which is why these things coexist together. Generally, through tattoo is how I coach people into becoming their best selves. And the good thing is, you don't necessarily have to get tattooed to get the coaching, to get the mentorship, to get the support, and the validation that you need. But I see a lot through a tattoo lens. I see a lot of bridges in tattoo and what it looks like in the greater of life and how things can be applied to life. So, with that said, I hope you are enjoying those. So that you guys know, on just a little housekeeping before we get started, on Mondays and Fridays, tattoo rants, raves, and rituals will have essays, written content coming out, whether it's a tattoo guide, culture critique, um, history guide, whatever the case may be. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, we will have podcasts. Okay. So these are my uh, ethnographical research by way of conversation. So it is conversations with tattoo elders, OGs, emerging tattoo artists who are killing it in the game, who have their own lane, who are doing illustrative and comic work, all of these things, all at the same time. And all of this work is distilled down to how you can unlock and reclaim your own cultural or creative heritage through whatever your creative means is. It doesn't have to be tattoo. That's just mine. Okay. My creative heritage is actually by way of tattoo. So, whatever your creative heritage is, my hope is that these stories, these shares, these conversations actually help you unlock your own creative heritage because it's important, right? Creative heritage is what helps us survive. So, with all of that said, now we are going to get into today's topic, which is about your creative legacy. And I want to look at it, Iba Asada Shakur, I want to look at it through the lens of her life and what she has offered us and what she has given us to think about, to radicalize in our lives, and to actually execute as it pertains to freedom, defining what freedom is. What is freedom for you? What is it not? What do you expect? In your idea of freedom? What do you accept in your idea of freedom? What do you consent to? What do you reject? All of these things are part of her legacy in terms of us looking at what does it actually mean to be free. We can't escape certain parts of this matrix. So with that, one of the most important things that you can do is start to define your freedom and work towards that, which in that is unlocking your creative legacy, because unlocking your creative legacy and living through that will help you not just define your freedom, but manifest those ideals that you that shape your idea of freedom. So with that said, of course, I am reading reading the actual blog post. You can find the post on Substack, along with some visual candy, if you will. And yeah. So if you're listening, wherever you're listening from, you can actually read this post on Substack. You can tap in, you can share your comments, you can subscribe and learn more. You can become a part of the legacy that is Black Tattoo Anthology, by upgrading your subscription and becoming a paid member, and you get a whole lot more than just me sharing. We get our hands dirty and get into some not just brand building but actual cultural stewardship. So it's a Weird to Wealth Wednesday, and Assata Shakur once wrote, I have been a prisoner all my life, but I refuse to be a slave. Her life is both testimony and inheritance, like a modern day John the Conqueror, whose root, John the Conqueror, is carried in pockets, buried in altars, whispered through hoodoo lore. Assata embodies resilience, protection, and the refusal to be erased. For Black creatives, especially as we enter Hoodoo Heritage Month, that is another thing. It is Hoodoo Heritage Month as of today, like as of this post, and I'm very excited. Assata's legacy is not just political, it's deeply creative. It teaches us that our weirdness, our difference, our refusal to conform is not an accident, it's an inheritance. When ritualized, it becomes protection. When protected, it becomes strategy. And when stewarded, it becomes wealth. So that is the journey from weird to wealth. Um, this is the philosophy behind Weird to Wealth. The philosophy is actually a two-part. If you know me, I am an Afro-Kawaii princess. So, well, queen. So when it comes to that, the cultures that I tend to look at and draw from and am inspired by the most are both Japanese culture and Yoruba culture. I have been doing great work in both cultures in terms of being related to the culture, getting to know the culture, understanding what is embedded in me that calls me to the culture, and how answering that call helps to grow me. So the Japanese proverb, Nana Karobi, Yai Ko, fall down 7 times, get up 8. That is my favorite. And if you've ever been to my studio, you have heard this story before. You know that this is one of my favorites because I have Daruma everywhere in my studio. And the Daruma, if you don't know what those are, they're these little round looking dolls. And I say round looking because they're not exactly round. And they have eyes that aren't colored in yet. And generally when you make a wish on a Daruma, when you make a wish on a daruma, you color in one eye, you fill in one eye, when you make the wish and you feel in the other eye once the wish comes true. And then at a certain time, you actually burn them. Generally, it is great to burn them with communal dharma so that that way all the blessings, all of the wishes, the well wishes that have come true are elevated to bring down more blessings, bring down more wishes coming true, if you will, right? So the idea of the Daruma, the idea of this Japanese proverb, is that when it comes to falling down seven times and getting up eight, it's resilience. Resilience isn't the absence of failure, it's the insistence of return. Asada, like John the Conqueror, reminds us that even when systems knock us down, our creative inheritance compels us to rise again. Yeah, that's I can't really say anything else after that. And I don't have a dot on my hair so that I can actually push it. But when it comes to looking at black culture and even in black tattoo culture, like anything where black culture, people have tried to stomp out and erase black culture, black resilience, black joy, our cultural inheritance, it seems like it comes back stronger. Like, we fall down, we're like, damn, that sucked, and we get right back up, which is why I labeled my philosophy weird to wealth. The next one is a Yoruba proverb, which is iwa, which means character is beauty. And we believe this to be true because one of the first things most people will say, like, you could be pretty on the outside, ugly on the inside, which makes you ugly all the way around, right? True legacy is not just what you produce, but how you embody it. John the Conqueror route wasn't merely a charm, it symbolized unbroken dignity. Asada's character, her refusal to betray her principles, is a modern echo. I talk a lot about character when we talk about branding, especially because your most people think about branding in terms of their logo and their website and their pages. The pretty pictures, how you show up on social media, but really your branding is you. Your branding is you. What resonates with people, how you carry yourself. Are you consistent with how you carry yourself? If you're a bitch, are you a bitch consistently? That's a brand. I'm not saying that that's beautiful character. I'm just saying that that's a brand. If you are, if you are nurturing, things like that. That's why when it comes to branding, a lot of times people will say share your testimonials because those people are speaking to what your character is, not just the experience of like, oh, it was smooth, I really like the lipstick I got, she was a very nice tattoo artist, but really speaking to your character. If you ever look up my testimonials for Little Ink Play Shop, I promise you people are generally telling me and reminding me, how, I helped them through their anxiety. I was kind and caring and nurturing. It was consistently, educational and informative, things like that, because that's all a part of my character. So I can't help for that shit to come out. And I'm not trying to hide it. So there's that. So, this is what the weird to wealth philosophy actually encompasses, which is a Japanese proverb, Nanakarobi Yaoki, which is fall down seven times to get up eight, and Iwalewa, which is character is beauty, and that is the Yoruba proverb. Now, when we look back at Asada's legacy in tattoo and we draw bridges between tattoo and Yoruba inheritance, let's look at that right quick. Asada Shakur's Hey, Shop Gals, just a pause for the cause. I trust that you have already subscribed. If you have not subscribed, please go to ImaniKBrown.com and subscribe to our Substack. So Shop Gal Diaries is on Substack, and the absolute easiest way to get there is by using my actual name, Imani, Imanik, like Kraft, Kraft cheese, uh, and brown like the color. So AmaniKBrown.com. Please get there. Please become a part of the community so that we can engage more, so that we can build deeper relationship and have deeper conversations. If you are already subscribed, today is the day that I'm going to invite you to become a paid subscriber because we're going to be intentionally building this community um, in a way that I hadn't planned to. It wasn't on my bingo card. Um, but it is necessary if we want to have these conversations. You becoming a paid subscriber helps to support this podcast and to support the work that I do, and to support the community. It also supports more than anything my nonprofit, Black Tattoo Anthology. So not only would you be supporting the podcast and my work, you will be supporting another young emerging Black tattoo artist. So get there. Again, it's AmaniKBrown.com. Subscribe to the Substack. And if you have already subscribed, become a paid subscriber. If you are new to the Substack, subscribe and then become a paid subscriber. And I'll meet you on the other side. Let's get back to it. Is the Yoruba proverb. Now, when we look back at Assata's legacy in tattoo and we draw bridges between tattoo and Yoruba inheritance, let's look at that right quick. Assata Shakur's legacy for Black tattoo artists resonates as a blueprint of resistance, memory, and liberation. Her life and words remind us that survival itself is an act of defiance and that our bodies are both battlegrounds, and archives underscore archives. When tattoo artists in the diaspora use ink as a liberation tool, they echo this praxis from Asada Shakur, turning wounds into wisdoms and scars into strategies. In my upcoming book, The Cultural Stewardship Playbook, tattoo is framed as remembrance and refusal. We didn't find tattoo, tattoo remembered us. I start actually last month speaking about that same ethic lives in Shakur's legacy. She carried the memory of struggle on her body in exile and in spirit, insisting that freedom requires living testimony. And it's not a quiet living testimony, it's very much a loud living testimony. For tattoo artists, each line becomes a political inscription, a reminder that Black flesh is not disposable but divine. And I'll underscore political here because we like to say that we don't want to be in politics, that we don't want to delve in politics. Your very existence is political as a Black person. So being able to survive is even like that, even deepens the political conversation as a Black person. So please remember that. This aligns deeply with Yoruba understandings of body marking. Ile ni eniyan. A person is their marks. That is not the direct translation, but that is the the best translation. And that's because in Yoruba culture, Ila facial or body markings is what it means. And I think I said that wrong. Ilani ni eniyan. I don't know if I said I feel like I said Ile ni eniyan as opposed to Eli ni eniyan, but either which way, Eli ni eniyan. Eli means facial or body markings. And those facial or body markings generally signify lineage, character, and destiny. And tattoo today, those marks declare identity beyond colonial erasure, much like Shakur's life embodied uncompromising self-definition. So tattoo practices across West Africa reinforced this. Yoruba Kolo prepared one for adulthood and leadership. Fulani Togu, facial tattoos acted as amulets, and Bini Iwu tattoos mark civic belonging. Each practice made liberation inseparable from the body. Liberation has to be a part of your body. If your body does not consent, you are not liberated. You are not going to have a good process in liberation. The same way I teach that if your body does not consent when you go to get tattooed, you're not going to have a good process in getting tattooed. Like it's going to suck. And a lot of people say that tattoos hurt most of the time because their body hasn't even consented to it. They haven't even talked to themselves. So that's a whole other sidebar, but back to the conversation at hand. For Black tattoo artists, Asada's legacy and Yoruba wisdom converge into a mandate. To tattoo is to inherit. To inherit is to remember. To remember is to resist. Thus, In this, the needle becomes a weapon of memory, a healing staff, and a ritual pen. Like Shakur, Black tattooists embody refusal, protection, and continuity, turning skin into scripture and every tattoo into a liberation text. So, with that, when it comes to your own liberation, here are 3 questions that you should definitely consider asking yourself. Don't consider asking yourself. Ask yourself these, especially to unlock your own creative inheritance, to step into your own inheritance. Ask yourself these 3 questions. What is my root? What spiritual or creative inheritance do I carry that protects me, like Assata's unwavering truth or John the Conqueror's uncatchable trickster spirit? How do I ritualize my weirdness? What practices transform my difference into protection, dignity, and beauty? Um, Man, that part hits because it just kind of rushed me back to when I first started getting tattooed, not when I first started tattooing, but when I first started getting tattooed. And that's because I come into tattoo as a cutter and I needed to reframe what that looks like so that I could actually transform and transmute that energy around cutting into something that was beautiful, into something that I could appreciate, something that would ground me, something that would actually help me move forward and progress, not keep me back, keep me stuck, or hinder me in any particular way. These are things that I talk about in tattoo when it comes to actually marking your body and helping a client through their decision making process of what their tattoo is. Um, so yeah, so it just kind of took me back as I was actually saying that. This is one of the reasons why I read these things, because when I write them, I'm writing them in truth, but then also a lot of times it will take me back. So if I just try and talk about it, then I get all over the place because something's going to take me back. Something's going to propel me forward. I'm not going to particularly stay present in the conversation where it'll go into like a streamline. These are the things. Um, and with that, when I do sidebar for any reason, I then don't have a roadmap to come back. That said, here's question number 3, because we're back on our roadmap, because that was a fucking sidebar. What wealth am I building for the future? Beyond money, what legacy or character, creativity, and cultural preservation will I leave behind? hmm For me, and I can only answer for me, um, my root is in tattoo. I do have other roots, because roots, it'll be like one main root and then you have offshoot roots. I don't know if you do any gardening or anything like that. I am in my auntie era. So at my big age of 45, I do like to go out and play in dirt. And when I do, I actually look at roots. But I do have other roots in my spiritual inheritance that I'm unearthing now, if you will. But my creative inheritance is in tattoo. My creative inheritance is also in ethno history. So being able to step into those things, how do I ritualize my weirdness? Doing shit like this, my podcast. Um, Not only in tattoo do I ritualize my weirdness by tattooing, because I am more of a medium in that space. I do more what we call tattoo divination in that space. There's a lot that I can't explain. There are a lot of people who come through and talk to me on behalf of the client. And it's usually their ancestors or my ancestors. Sometimes it's creative ancestors or collective ancestors who come through. But all of these things that I thought were weird in terms of understanding that stuff in tattoo, I now put into my tattoo practice. And then all of the things that I think are weird that I'm still processing and coming into in terms of my creative inheritance, in terms of being able to see bridges between things like tattoo and branding, spirituality, things that people just don't put together that, most people will think weird. I do things like this, the podcast, conversation, so that I can start to actively put those things together. Because if I do that, what happens is sometimes people be like, oh my God, I was thinking the same thing, or oh, I can see that, right? And that helps. Not only that, but putting these things out there help with my protection. It helps with the dignity and beauty because in that way, over time, practice makes perfect. I won't be saying as much. I will be flowing a lot more eloquently. Give me a couple months. Okay. And we'll be flowing a lot more eloquently, but also in terms of protection, you get to see me, you get to see my character, you get to see all the things that I have to offer because we're communing right now, right? So anything anybody else will have to say, you can actually put a face to a name and possibly pull up to ask questions um, if anything were to happen. So that's how I ritualize my weirdness. And what wealth am I building for the future? Honey, Black Tattoo Anthology is taking me through the ringer and not in a bad way. So beyond money, of course, character. As I left Pens, my creative legacy at Pens and Needles, which still, comes up to this day. I just met a young lady who was getting a reading by my godmother, and she steps out the room. She's like, "Oh my God, you did one of my tattoos at Pens and Needles." And this had to have been at least 12 years ago or more, because she barely remembered my face, but she remembered what the experience was like with me. And when she said it was a girl and it was a Black girl, I'm the only Black girl who worked at Pins and Needles. So we were able to deduce that it was in fact me. Not only am I the only Black girl who works at Pins and Needles, there have been no Black women guest artists um, at Pins and Needles, with the exception of I think Cake. I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's the only one. Anyway, again, sidebar, back to my notes. Um, with that, ritualizing or building creative wealth for the future. And that comes in with being able to have that creative legacy that comes from pens. I have notes that I'll share one day about my creative legacy at Pens and more of my character legacy at Pens, and how I stood up for people and I shut others down when they were wrong, like, coming in and bullying or trying to clown a person for the tattoo they're getting, stuff like that. I like to Joan. We call it Joan in here in DC. A lot of people call it playing a dozens or anything like that. But I can tear you down. So a lot of times I wait for people to be in the wrong to be like, "Oh, and your little ashy, dusty ass, blah, 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 blah." So yeah. So I have a lot of testimonials that actually speak to my character legacy when it comes to that. And I'm still that same person. So, you just kind of never know it because it's innate and you don't even know what you're doing. And cultural preservation, of course, through Black Tattoo Anthology, I am leaving that behind. Cultural preservation of tattoo, because I don't want to see what was very much working for tattoo fall by the wayside. I don't want to see I don't want to see any of my work fall by the wayside. I would like to pass it forward. But I also don't want to see the good things about tattoo, the things of gatekeeping and apprenticeships, being able to have cultural lineage and to be able to identify said cultural lineage, to have more of found family in tattoo that you're responsible for, being able to grow up through accountability, being able to grow up through creativity and challenges, being able to connect certain practices to certain cultures, especially within Black tattoo culture. Um, and being able to preserve those things so they don't go out of practice, the tools, the ritual process, and the actual taking care of the client, all of these things. And while things will change over time, they shouldn't change so much that they change the actual root, that they change the foundation that tattoo or the culture was built on, but it should help progress it. It should help innovate within that space, and that's the space that I'm in. So don't I'm sharing this so that you don't think that I don't ask myself these questions either, because before sharing this with you, I definitely sat and I asked myself these questions, and I did a nice little journaling ritual, to just kind of make sure I'm even aligned. Like, I can't tell you something and be like, yeah, ask yourself these questions and see what happens and comes up for you. And I'm not doing it for myself, right? So, those are the three questions. Again, these three questions help you step into your own inheritance. And these are the things that you should ask yourself. What is your root? How do you ritualize your weirdness? And what wealth are you building for the future? These are on Substack. So you shouldn't just take notes. You should go to Substack and see it if you have to copy and paste it because it is in text, so that you can actually take time to really dive into these three questions for yourself. Your weirdness is not an accident is the point of all of this, right? So the things that you think are weird about you, they're actually your inheritance. Ritualize it, protect it, steward it, and then transform it. This is Hoodoo Heritage Month, and I welcome you to Hoodoo Heritage Month. Let's honor the ancestor, Mama Assata Shakur. Let's honor the ancestor, John the Conqueror, and every ancestor. Let's honor Harriet Tubman, the great mother Harriet Tubman, and every other ancestor who reminds us our bodies, our art, our weirdness, our altars, and they deserve to be worked. So, with that, I hope that was good for you. I hope it gives you something to think about. In the meantime, I got some big things coming up on October 6th. I'm opening the doors to my very first Ancestors to Assets 3-day brand workshop. This is evergreen. So if you're listening to this, and it's far into the future, after the 6th, then that's fine. You should definitely still check it out. It's a ritual rich masterclass designed to help you align with your lineage, embody your style, and turn your stories into wealth aligned offers. This is for it's well suited. It's not just for, but it is well suited for Gen X and older millennial creatives who are ready to stop scattering energy, reclaim their gifts, and finally show up in the world with clarity, confidence, and grounded wealth. Your altar is waiting, shop gals and guys. It's waiting. Your ancestors are ready. And the question is, will you say yes? So, with that, happy Weird to Wealth Wednesday. Let me know what you dig and what you like about this philosophy, this Weird to Wealth philosophy. There will be more about Weird to Wealth and what that looks like, and we'll be digging in a lot more in from ancestors to assets, so that we can actually texturize what weirdness actually looks like as wealth. So yeah. So so I will see you there. I will see you on Substack. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this. If you enjoyed this, be sure to let me know. Leave a comment. Pull up, say what's up. Go past ImaniKBrown.com and check out our coaching packages and let's work together. That includes tattoo because I coach through tattoo. So just so you know. All right, let's work together. I'll talk to you soon and I look forward to connecting. All right. That's it, Janae. As always, I'm rooting for you. Gambate ne. See you later. Janae. All right, shop gals and guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you back for the next one. If you have not already subscribed or become a paid subscriber of Shop Gal Diaries, please feel free to do that today, like expeditiously, like yesterday. I am your host, Amani K. Brown, the Tattoo Priestess and Brand Maven. I am always around on Substack. You can ask me anything. You can slide into my DMs, ask me questions. If you enjoyed this particular episode, leave comments. Let me know, little love notes and stuff. Let me know what touched you and what part of the conversation really spoke to you, right? You can find my offers on Substack at ImaniKBrown.com, my life coaching and business mentorship offers. You can also find me for tattoo at littleinkplayshop.com. There's also a link for that at ImaniKBrown.com. So if you're looking for a mentor, a life coach, or a business mentor, I am your gal. And if you are looking to get tattooed, especially large pieces, you want some quality, wholesome ink therapy, I am also your gal. So you can find all of those things at ImaniKBrown.com, and I look forward to seeing you soon. As always, I am rooting for you. Gambate ne, and I will see you later. Jane. Listen to yourself, believe in yourself, and keep going. That's pretty much all you need.